Let's discuss the topic acid-base balance. Blood pH ranges from 6.8 to 7.8. On an average, blood pH is 7.4. Acids synthesized in our body are carbon dioxide and water produces carbonic acid. Amino acids, that is proteins in diet, causes production of sulfuric acid. Anaerobic metabolism results in production of lactic acid, and organic phosphates produces phosphoric acid. Vegetarian diet has alkalizing effect on blood since they produce salts of organic acids in the diet, whereas protein diet has acidic effect on blood since proteins result in synthesis of sulfuric acid. Mechanisms to maintain blood pH. There are three main mechanisms that maintain blood pH, that is blood buffers, respiratory mechanism and renal mechanism. Let's discuss blood buffers. There are three buffers: bicarbonate buffer, phosphate buffer and protein buffer. Bicarbonate buffer is maintained by NaHCO3 and H2CO3, whereas phosphate buffer is maintained by sodium hypophosphate and phosphoric acid, whereas protein buffer is maintained by plasma proteins and hemoglobin. Blood buffers act temporarily to reduce free H plus ions present in the blood, and they does not remove the H plus ions permanently. Bicarbonate buffer. It is the most predominant buffer in our body. Bicarbonate buffer is formed by H2CO3 and HCO3 minus. We all know that at equilibrium, dissociation constant of the above reaction is H plus concentration into HCO3 minus concentration by concentration of carbonic acid. On rearrangement, we know that pH of blood equals to Ka plus log salt by acid, which is the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. Let's derive pH of blood from the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. Plasma concentration of HCO3 minus is generally 24 millimoles per liter, whereas concentration of carbonic acid is derived from multiplication of arterial partial pressure of carbon dioxide and solubility constant of carbon dioxide. Arterial partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 40, whereas solubility constant is 0.03, which gives 1.2. So pKa of H2CO3 is 6.1. This is a constant value. Let's derive blood pH. Blood pH equals to pKa plus log salt by acid, that is 6.1 plus log 24 by 1.2. On solving, we get pH of blood equal to 7.4. Ratio of salt by acid in bicarbonate buffer is 20:1, whereas in phosphate buffer it is 4. So ratio of salt by acid is 5 times more in bicarbonate buffer when compared to phosphate buffer. Respiratory mechanisms for maintenance of blood pH. These are short-acting and immediate process for mechanism of controlling blood pH. Carbon dioxide reacts with water and produces H2CO3 in presence of carbonic anhydrase. Generally, respiration is controlled by respiratory center in medulla. When there is an acidic pH of blood, there is more H plus ion concentration. So it is sensed by respiratory center and causes hyperventilation, so that there will be a rapid expiration of CO2 and decrease in H plus ion concentration, thus producing alkalizing effect. Renal mechanisms for maintenance of blood pH. These are permanent solutions for acid-base balance, and they take long time to get activated. In general, urine pH is 6, and it is based on the concentration of H plus ions excretion, so that it may vary from 4.5 to 8. pH of blood is maintained by 4 mechanisms in kidneys, that is excretion of H plus, reabsorption of HCO3 minus, excretion of titratable acid and excretion of ammonium ions. H plus ion excretion at PCT. Generally, renal epithelial cells have carbonic anhydrase, which forms carbonic acid, which is then forms H plus ion and HCO3 minus. HCO3 minus passively diffuses into the blood, whereas H plus ion in exchange with Na plus ions enters lumen and then combines with non-coordinate bases and excreted through urine. HCO3 minus reabsorption at PCT. In general, H plus and Na plus ion exchange through Na plus H plus exchanger on membrane of renal epithelial cells. The H plus ion excreted into the tubular lumen combines with HCO3 minus and forms H2CO3, which in presence of carbonic anhydrous dissociates to carbon dioxide and water. And this carbon dioxide enters passively into the epithelial cell. For reabsorption of HCO3 minus, the HCO3 minus combines with H plus, and here H plus is derived from H2CO3 and also from water. Titratable acid excretion. What are titratable acids? The number of milliliters of 1/10 normal NaOH required to titrate 1 liter of urine to pH of 7.4, that is blood pH, is known as titratable acid. In lumen, sodium hypophosphate dissociates to Na plus and NaHPO4 minus, which then combines with H plus ions secreted from renal tubular cells and forms NaH2PO4, which is then excreted. Ammonium ion excretion. This is the most effective form and most common form of eliminating acid from body and mainly from proteins. Next, we all know that glutamine is converted to glutamate and ammonia in amino acid metabolism in presence of the enzyme glutaminase. So this ammonia is formed, thus excreted into the lumen and combines with the H plus ion, resulting in the formation of NH4 plus, which is then excreted through urine. Disorders of acid-base balance. There are mainly two disorders, acidosis and alkalosis. Acidosis, that is decrease in pH of blood, which is acidic pH, and it has two types, metabolic acidosis and respiratory acidosis. Metabolic acidosis mainly due to decrease in HCO3 minus ions, whereas respiratory acidosis is mainly due to increase in carbonic acid, that is more CO2 in blood. Causes for metabolic acidosis are diabetes mellitus, renal failure, lactic acidosis, severe diarrhea, renal tubular acidosis. Causes for respiratory acidosis are asthma, pneumonia, cardiac arrest, airway obstruction, chest deformities, and depression of respiratory center in medulla. Alkalosis, that is increase in pH, alkaline pH of blood. These are two types, metabolic alkalosis, respiratory alkalosis. Metabolic alkalosis is increase in HCO3 minus ion concentration, whereas respiratory alkalosis is decrease in H2CO3, that is less CO2 in blood. Causes for metabolic alkalosis are severe vomiting, which causes increased excretion of H plus, hypokalemia, IV HCO3 minus administration, and in Cushing syndrome. Whereas in respiratory alkalosis, the causes are hyperventilation, anemia, and salicylate poisoning, that is aspirin poisoning. Anion gap. Generally, in homeostatic state, concentration of anions present in blood is always equal to the concentration of cations in the blood. Difference between the total concentration of cations and the total concentration of anions is nothing but the anion gap. Here, sodium and potassium mostly contributes to 95% of cations in the plasma, whereas Cl minus and HCO3 minus contributes to 80% of anions in the plasma. On substituting the concentration of Na plus, K plus, Cl minus and HCO3 minus, we have a difference of 15 milliequilators per liter of anions. This is nothing but the anion gap. In a healthy individual, it ranges from 8 to 18 milliequivalents per liter. Metabolic acidosis. The main cause for metabolic acidosis is excessive production of organic acids that combines with sodium bicarbonate and deplete alkali reserve of the body. In severe diabetes mellitus, ketoacidosis results in excessive synthesis of ketone bodies, which results in formation of beta hydroxybutyric acid and acetoacetic acid. Both are acids and resulting in metabolic acidosis. Elevation of anion gap, that is seen most commonly in metabolic acidosis, since HCO3 minus ion concentration is low due to reduced alkali reserve of the body. In metabolic acidosis, we generally see hypokalemia. Since sodium retention is less at the PCT and H plus excretion is also less, so that there will be a compensatory mechanism for sodium retention at DCT, which causes retention of Na plus and excretion of K plus. So K plus is seen commonly in metabolic acidosis patients. Let's see disorders of acid-base balance, their causes and compensatory mechanisms. First one, metabolic acidosis, that is decrease in blood pH, mainly due to decrease in bicarbonate levels. And here carbonic acid levels are normal. In metabolic states, bicarbonate levels are altered, whereas in respiratory states, CO2 and carbonic acid levels are altered. Compensatory mechanism in metabolic acidosis include hyperventilation and renal compensation. Hyperventilation causes excessive CO2 expiration, which results in decreased carbonic acid, so that there will be an elevation of pH, that is alkaline pH of blood, and it is activated within minutes to hours. Whereas renal compensation is by excretion of H plus ions as and H4 plus ions. It takes time of 3 to 4 days. Metabolic alkalosis, that is increase in pH of blood. This is due to increased bicarbonate levels in blood and carbonic acids are normal. Compensatory mechanism, hypoventilation, that is retention of carbon dioxide in blood results in increased H2CO3 production and thus results in acidic pH of blood. It is immediate and activated within minutes to hours. Renal mechanism, it sets in 3 to 4 days and it is by excretion of more HCO3 minus and retention of H plus ion. Respiratory acidosis, that is increase in blood pH. It is mainly due to increased partial pressure of carbon dioxide and increased carbonic acid production. Compensatory mechanism, renal mechanism sets in few days. Here respiratory, that is ventilatory mechanisms are not effective, so renal mechanisms are the only compensatory mechanisms in respiratory acidosis and alkalosis. Renal mechanism, that is excessive absorption HCO3 minus, results in buffering of carbonic acid and increases blood pH. Respiratory alkalosis, that is decrease in pH due to decreased partial pressure of carbon dioxide and decreased carbonic acid production. It compensatory mechanism by renal, that is increased HCO3 minus excretion, resulting in reduced buffering of already present carbonic acid and decreased renal absorption of carbonic acid. In diabetic ketoacidosis, insulin should not be given, since if insulin is given, it results in uptake of potassium into skeletal muscle, thus it results in hypokalemia. Already in the patient with metabolic acidosis, there will be hypokalemia, which further results in severe hypokalemia, resulting in heart functioning effects and life threatening. Thanks for watching.